but we're going live. All right. There we go. Not too bad. Let's see. I'll wait for some people to come on. If you're watching this in the replay, a topic that I was thinking about recently and having a conversation with someone is how we value things. And it's just interesting because as I look at this Dad University as a business and how I value maybe the course or the different products and things that I offer, and how impactful they can be, how impactful they can be to somebody's life. And then we look at something else and we say, I don't know, we evaluate something tangible, whether that is something we need for the house or we need something. And it's just interesting. It's an interesting dynamic of how we all value things, and the pricing of things, can change drastically, or can be really different from one person to the next about how they see pricing. And so as I start to price my things that I do, it's just very interesting. And I don't know, it's not a comment on society, but I think somewhat it is. It's just when you feel something is valued differently than somebody else, that's what happens. It's like somebody getting a haircut and willing to spend a tremendous amount of money for their haircut, whereas other people are like, I'm not spending more than, $10 or whatever to do that. So just thought it was an interesting comment as people come in. As you're coming into this live, let me know where you're from, say hello, and any questions that you might have. We've done this now a couple weeks in a row. I'm enjoying it. Hopefully we can do more. But put your questions in there. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. And if you're watching this on the replay, well, thank you. Sometimes people feel like they miss out. I know that there was a couple, a couple people that didn't get a chance to hit the live last time. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the name right. Wansi, how do you help your wife at the start of newborn's life? I think I understand that question. The start of a newborn's life, a lot of what I think you have to ask your wife what she needs. That's probably the best way. I mean, you're from Greenland. Every person is different. The needs are different. Certainly, if she is the one getting up in the night and feeding the child, that will affect it. So, I mean, there's common tips of just, being supportive, do more around the house, but it also depends on your role and her role. As an example, if she was the one going out and working, you would be more at home. So how do you support her? Well, by helping her with her schedule and stuff. So there's so many different scenarios that I would say the best thing you can do is have that conversation with her and let her know that you want to be supportive. You are ready to help her in any way she needs, and ask her what that is. Dave from Richmond, Virginia. Hello. I hope Nahum from Wilmington, Delaware. All right. So yeah, that's sometimes maybe the answer is too easy and too simple. I'm not sometimes I don't have answers because they can be so different. Everybody's different. Every situation's different. Of course, we have to generalize a little bit, but as people were coming in, I was talking about value and how we value things. And I think that translates not only just price of how we value, but things that are important to us when they are not important to somebody else. And, I can give you an example. It's like someone could have a hobby, or someone could have, things that they collected when they were younger. And for some people, those are really valuable. They place such tremendous value and memories on those things. And then for other people, they're not valuable at all. They just don't care about it. I think what we have to be careful of is poo-pooing somebody else's value. In other words, just because I don't value it as much as you do doesn't mean that it's wrong or right or such. Raymond asks, 3-month-old is going through her first cold. Any tips? Contact your pediatrician. Unfortunately, I'm not a doctor. I don't want to give medical advice. I would say, the mom blogs like to go around and say what their best remedies are for that. I would say contact your pediatrician. That's not my area of expertise. So Aaron said, took some advice of yours on my kids fighting all the time. You said for you to give them some, I remember this one, for you to give some time with themselves, and it's worked a bit. When they get back together, they're not fighting as much. Yeah. So the situation here, Aaron, if I remember, your children were fighting, and part of that may have been just they're wanting attention. And so I think the suggestion was to spend time individually with each of the children, and they may not be as starved for attention. And if that was the scenario that I remember, I'm glad that worked. You're welcome. And Scott, girlfriend, and I are having twin boys in May. Congratulations. Good to see you here. Good group of people. Glad you guys are coming back. That's awesome. I will give you a little bit of inside information. I don't have it ready just yet to sign up, but because you guys are here, I wanted to talk about it a little bit just because it's so exciting for me. So I had mentioned in some of my previous videos that I was working on a new course and doing some other things. And I think what I'm going to do, I know I'm going to do it. I'm going to be creating membership, and I posted that on the community tab. So within YouTube, there is a community tab. If you have not gone there and voted, go and please do vote. It was about the pricing for my membership. And so instead of charging one big fee or doing things, I'm going to try and make this membership extremely accessible for everybody. I do hope people support the channel because what'll happen is the membership helps pay for things. I mean, I do other work and consulting, and I have my course, and I do these things, but to make videos, it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. I have an assistant, office, all these things. So it's very, very helpful. And I don't ask a lot, but if you guys are willing to sign up and be a member, and it's going to be a low fee, that's very, very awesome as far as being able to support what we do here. And there's going to be community, there's going to be live events, there's all this stuff. So it's coming soon. I will have a sign up for like a pre-sign up soon, and I'm very excited about it. We've been working so hard on it that it'll be. So Jose, no, it's not going to be free. I'm going to continue to do my YouTube videos, do these free things. That's not going to change. But there is going to be the opportunity to be a member of Dad University, and that is going to have access to my courses, exclusive live Q&As with me. The courses is really the big part of it. There's also going to be private discussions where just people who are members are going to be part of that discussion group, and I'll be part of that as well. So there's just going to be a lot more. It's the ability to provide a little bit more to people who are members, and so it'll be fun. It's going to be cool. Jose, you're asking about the communiter. Jose, no, I am not. I am married to a woman, but thank you. Is there a manual on how to be a dad? Well, that's what Dad University is. It's kind of the manual. So Ma Lee asks, in the age we live now and with COVID, do you think it's necessary to take birthing classes or new parent class? Yeah. I mean, I think it's great to take birthing classes or new parent classes. That's what we do here, is to educate people. I always love education. I think it's very beneficial to learn more. You don't necessarily even always have to apply it, but it's good to learn more. There's, information's powerful. Um, let's see. Yeah, so Brandon, I had asked from Missouri, any tips on introducing a newborn to a family dog? Somebody else had mentioned this. A good thing to do is right before you do it, get the scent. So you like put the clothes of the baby and give that to the dog. I think another thing, it's like you do with a sibling, is have a bone or toy or something for the dog, and have kind of make it as if the newborn is giving that to the dog. And so the dog sees that the newborn is like giving the dog a gift. So that, but also the scent, have the baby's clothes or something and give that to the dog. And also just give the dog extra attention. I think that's the case. We didn't have a dog at the time that the newborns came in, but these were suggestions that other people have given to me, that I've heard that have worked well. Let's see, a lot of stuff coming through now. The greens, three. So I'll tell you this one. You're not going to like my answer. The top 3 products that your newborn needs. So if you've watched me here, or you're familiar with my information, I'm going to say there is nothing that you need. These are wants. And in fact, I just did a video. My last video was about what a newborn needs. The needs are diapers, food, safety, clothing. That's it. The idea of getting monitors and pillow things and bottle warmers and sleep aid thing, I'm not a proponent of this at all. And the reason being is because these companies do such a good job of convincing you that they need them, that you need them. And so you end up spending a lot of money on things that you really don't need. And so my suggestion is, certainly you could, talk to people and see what it is that they bought, but you might not need those same things. And so I always suggest is, some of the things might make your partner more comfortable. They're a little bit more convenient, but they're not needs, they're wants. And make sure to separate that, because there really is nothing other than food, clothing, shelter that you need. The changing tables and the sound makers, and it's like, personally, there's plenty of people that do fine without these. And so I think, the baby product industry has created a lot of pretend need for a lot of people. So that would be my answer. Don't know if it's a wonderful thing you want to hear, but that's it. Let's see. Jose, I don't know if you're serious or not. Do you know anyone that gives grandparent lessons? No, but I should start grandparent university. I'll make sure that is part of my stuff. Let's see. MS Hag or M Shag, either one. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it right. Is it true that there are risks associated with sleep training before 6 months of age? Our 5-month-old is thriving, but still has a hard time stringing sleep cycles together. I'm not. No, I mean, usually the information that I'm aware of is prior to 3 months, it's just not that easy. I mean, it's really difficult. So sleep training usually starts about after 3 months. That's the only information I have as far as, not a sleep expert, but so I'm not sure. Um, so it's funny. So many people ask questions that I don't know the answers to, or that I'm not qualified to do that. So I love it. I love that people are coming here. I deal with fathers and helping fathers become more confident in their parenting. Going from chaos to being more calm, being more present. And so a lot of the questions that seem that people are medical questions, or questions that are a little bit I don't want to say risky to answer, but they're not questions that I might not be able to help with. For example, what's your thought on pregnant mother getting the COVID vaccine? That's not my department. Not gonna go, not getting involved in that one. Okay, so here's one that I can help with. How do you balance being helpful to your kid and letting them do things themselves? Yeah, well, it depends on the age of the child. I think in almost all cases, or most cases, you allow the child to do the things themselves, and then you're there for the support. So, as an example, eating with them by themselves, or using a fork, and like you allow them, and you can sort of guide them, and put them in the right direction. It's like if you were helping your child with homework. You don't give them the answer. You see how far they go, and then you try to help them along. Maybe it's giving them clues, or maybe it's giving them, or asking them questions that they can then solve it on their own. We want our children to be self-sufficient. So I think that's an important part of it. I don't know that there's like an exact balance, but for the most part, you allow the child to do the things on their own. I mean, they're going to become much more confident. It's like getting dressed. The child many a times can get dressed on their own, and we still help them. We put on their shirt. We do whatever. It's just something that we do often because we love them, or because they're too slow, or there's all kinds of reasons why we do it. And I think we just have to let them do a lot of the things. So hopefully that helps. JV Viana, any tips on the terrible twos? Yeah, lots of tips. If there's something specific, you can write it in there. Be empathetic. I talk about empathy a lot. Pretend that you are 2 years old. You don't know anything. 2-year-olds don't know anything about this world. And even like when a child, though, they talk and they seem really smart, and they might walk and they might do things, that they still don't know anything. They don't know what they're doing. They are clueless. And so I think we have to put ourselves, that's one of the biggest things that helped me, is putting ourselves in the place of the child and realizing, when a child's asking for something, or crying, or whining, or doing what, they don't know what to do. And so that's probably the biggest tip for dealing with terrible twos, is just put yourself in the place of that 2-year-old and realize, like, okay, dad's scary. Dad's this big, loud guy, and he's asking me to do something, and I've never even done this before. It changes your perspective when you look at it from, being a 2-year-old. So that's probably the biggest tip I can give you. Let's see. Eric, how do I get a Dad University shirt? So I sell ones just like this. You can go to daduniversity.com and click on the store, or the shop, whatever. And I have some merchandise. There's still a little bit in stock. I also have these hats as well. There's some of those. And so those are for sale. Support, you can support the channel that way. So that's one way you can do it. I'm glad that you've had some impact. That's awesome. Glad you can join us here. Brandon, what's some good ways for dads to be involved or bond with a breastfed baby? Um, while breastfeeding, not much. I think that you hold the child. You also, during that time, you're helping mom a lot. I just saw some, I don't know, I saw some post and it was like a bottle shaped like a woman's breast, and where the baby was, so the man was like feeding the child as if holding it. If that's something that you want to do, you could do that. But I think so. Let's take a step back for a second. When the child's born, we want to be involved as much as we can. There are some things where we're not involved in, and one of them is breastfeeding, and that is okay because there's other opportunities. Some of it is just time spending, the quality time, and so I don't know that you have to be too involved in the breastfeeding itself. Instead, be more involved in the changing or the bathing or doing other things. You don't have to be involved in every aspect of it unless there's something that your partner asks of you and says, "Hey, it'd be really helpful if you could prepare this or get this ready or do something," then do it. But I don't know that you have to be involved in every aspect of it. Um, Nick asked how to deal with separated parents for the kid. Nick, maybe you can ask more. I would love to touch on that, but maybe you can ask a little bit more detail. So victory belongs to Jesus. How do you feel about a young, not mature 5-year-old in kindergarten getting written up about any little thing she does wrong in school? Do you think she needs behavioral therapy? No. She does struggle with listening, but she's a sweet girl. So here's what happens. This is highly dependent on the teacher and the situation. Now, I have seen both situations. I have seen, kindergarten, preschool teachers that command the room. The children can act out all they want. They've got it under control. There are other teachers that don't, and they don't have it under control. And quite frankly, handling 20, 30, 4 to 5-year-olds has to be impossible. Props to all teachers. But some handle it much better than others. And so I think you have to understand what the situation is. I don't know why they get written up or what they get written up, but kids are going to act out. But you have to talk to your child about, appropriate behavior. And what happens is, as you've got to get a handle on what that behavior is and the severity of the problem. So whether your child needs behavioral therapy or not, that's not for me to determine. I do think your child, if they're getting in trouble, you need to figure out what's going on. Why are they getting in trouble, or what are the feelings that they're not able to express, or, so there could be some things. You obviously are in tune with it, or at least concerned about it. So that's a good thing. But have non-emotional conversations with your child about it and say, "Hey, I was just looking at things." Don't get upset at your child. Don't get them in trouble and reprimand them. Is have conversations like, "Hey, are you having a tough time? What are some things that we could do to make it easier?" And it could be, little person over there was teasing her, or somebody else was mean, or I don't know what the situation is, but it's also it can be frustrating if you don't have a really good teacher. It's not the teacher's fault by any means. We have to take responsibility as parents. So the acting up is the child and parents' responsibility. But for some teachers, they've got it under control. I remember going into one of my children's classes, and the teacher just, if a child has a problem, nope, this is what we do. We talk about it and we understand it, and the teacher takes control of that. So I think, I don't know that your child needs behavioral therapy, but your child definitely needs attention, that you want to talk to them and find out what's going on and try to help. and see, and ask your child, what are the ways that we could make school more fun and you not get in trouble, because that's not something that you're supposed to do in school. So you need to talk to the child. So John Doe says, any advice with screen time for a baby? Yeah, my advice is don't give the baby screen time. The childhood associations say not to do it. There's some limitations. I would look at like Common Sense Media and some of the other publications. I think it's like 30 minutes for a baby. And then as they get a little bit older, it's like an hour. No, I hate screens. I hate screen time. I don't like any of it. There's certainly educational material that can be used, or that, but here's the thing. I hate screens, but I understand it. That's the reality. And if you're home all day with the child, you need a break. Totally understand that too. So I understand why. I think that there's, I don't say a slippery slope, but here's what happens with screens. And I see this with older children and gaming and all this. Screens are really, really exciting. The cortisol that's produced, they're very, very stimulating. That was the word I was looking for. And so if a child is stimulated with a screen constantly, they're going to need that continual stimulation. It is okay for a child to be bored. It's totally fine. In fact, it's kind of good for them to be bored. And so, I'm a believer. Screens are a part of our lives. There's ways to use them in healthy ways and healthy habits. But I am concerned with the amount of screen time that children get. And we have these conversations at our house all the time. My children are 13 and 11. The amount of screens. Now, I remember watching TV. So some of it is the actual screen time, meaning the time that your eyes are looking at a screen. The other part of it is the actual content, so those are kind of two different conversations. So yeah, I don't like screens, but so you're not going to, no more bullshit. Good name. My wife and I are due this past Sunday. We're scheduled to be induced on this Saturday. I obviously will be her biggest advocate in the hospital, but what does that look like? It just means being strong and assertive when, she might need something. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing the staff in there are very used to people. I mean, you're supposed to be polite, make friends with them. If anything, what you can do, you can even bribe them by bringing them some donuts, or something that always works. The staff love gifts. You want to be polite and you want to be respectful because they're there to help you. And so you want them to like you, of course, because you want them to pay attention to your wife or your partner. So, yeah, I think the thing is to be assertive and just make sure that, things are happening the way that is needed. But that's what being the advocate means. It's not, yelling at people or anything like that. But you do have to sometimes be, the squeaky wheel. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. And sometimes, if the hospital is busy or they're just not paying attention. But I don't think you need to be too concerned about it. Don't anticipate that you're going to have to be some like jerk and you're going to have to like yell or whatever. If that's, but I think that's the case. Let's see. JT, what's the best way to reprimand a kid to get the point across? How old is the child? JT, you're going to have to give me a little bit more information. You guys, let me know where you're from too. I love hearing where you're from when you answer your questions, kind of seeing that people are from all over the world. Reese, is there a reason why the baby's mom acts to you while pregnant? I'm not understanding that I'm fine being a new dad. I'm not sure I understand the question. Maybe you can rephrase that. It's a hypothetical. JT says it's a hypothetical, so maybe 2. St. Louis, Reese. What's the best way to reprimand a kid? First, I don't like the word reprimand, and especially at 2 years old. If you're teaching them no, you say the word no, and you do that. So reprimanding is not a great word. If you're talking about making sure that they don't do something dangerous, then yeah, I mean, they eventually learn the word no, or if you do, they're going towards something and you have to, quickly grab them and move them back or something, then, I mean, you have to do that. But I don't think, it's kind of it's a difficult question because there's so many different scenarios. The things that I teach in my course and now is going to be membership, and in these videos is, there's not necessarily reason to punish. We, in my house, from the time my kids were very, very small, there's very little, quote, punishment. There's also very little reward. It goes hand in hand. And I've had some videos about this. Punishment typically doesn't teach them anything. And so it depends what the reprimanding is for. If you're trying to teach them not to put, a screwdriver in a light socket, there's not a lot of ways to figure that one out unless they actually do it. So, I mean, so the reprimanding, I'm not a fan of the reprimanding or certainly no spanking and such. It doesn't teach the child, and we can argue that one till the end of time with some of my videos. And people are turned off by that. That's cool. I mean, you can use your own philosophy, but I've never spanked my child. We have very respectful, articulate, polite children. And it's the discipline and the reprimanding is respectful in a way. If you want them to be respectful, you've got to be respectful towards them. And so there's techniques of doing that. And that's what I teach. So it's hard to say it in kind of a few words. So Reese, is there a reason why the baby mom gets an attitude towards you when she's pregnant? Well, there could be a lot of reasons for that. Why don't you ask her what the issue is? I'm just going to take a wild guess. This could be totally off, but it could be 1, you're not doing as much as she would like you to do. 2, she's got hormones and those are going crazy. 3, she might not think you're doing enough. You also might not be doing enough. 4, you might be doing it the wrong way or not in a way that she likes. And so I think that's a conversation rather than is there a specific reason? A lot of the answers or to the questions that I see people asking for this advice, the best way to get the answer is to talk to your partner. When something involves your partner, often the best way to do it is to ask your partner. Now, I will say that's not always the case because your partner could be have too much expectation, could be unrealistic, could be difficult to deal with, and so the issue could be them too. So, but is there a reason why she gets an attitude? Yeah, I mean there could be a lot of reasons. I would ask her and see what her feedback is. Now, if you come back to me and if she says, well, here's the reason, this, and this, and then we try to work with that and figure out, how you can not be that way or how she can change the way she perceives it. Communication solves a lot of those issues. As John says, it's called hormones. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to blame everything on hormones. Hormones can often be a big part of it, but also people can have an attitude problem. I mean, that's the way that couples deal with each other all the time is an attitude. It's I see it all. I see disrespect all the time between couples. You can be out and you can see somebody yelling at somebody else, or putting them down, or you're around a group of people and like the husband or wife is like the brunt of their joke, or I just, yeah, there's ways that people deal with each other that's just not okay. Um, Brian, you mentioned a child being bored. How can you tell when they are bored? Well, if they're old enough, you ask them. Um, but yes, for like a toddler, them being fussy, yeah, that can be boredom. Um, yeah, I mean, there are benefits and problems with constantly having a child be entertained, especially if you're the one who's entertaining them, or it's a screen that's entertaining them. They have to learn how to entertain themselves. And eventually that's, them flipping through a book or playing with toys, and so them playing with toys is fine too, but eventually, especially toddlers, they get bored with a toy after a short amount of time. So let's see. Yeah. You guys are funny. LT from Singapore. How can you help or support your partner to get over and recover from post delivery? Main goal is to prevent or reduce any postpartum depression. So I'd say the first thing is, you say how to get over it and recover. If you're talking about physically recovering or just mentally recovering, you got to be careful with having expectations. That's kind of the first thing. But I think it's just being supportive, and the same thing I mentioned earlier about being empathetic is, put yourself in the place of your partner, and you just delivered, physically exhausting. There's a lot to do with the baby, whether it's feeding and just taking care of the child. And, for any men, if they're the ones who are going to work and the wife is staying at home, for any men who think that staying home with the child all day is easy, I invite you to do it. It is not easy. It's not easily physically, and it's not easy mentally. So if you are criticizing, and nobody's doing that here, but I'm just saying, if you find yourself criticizing your partner, whether it's the male or female, for staying home and all they have to do, I just saw this on a post. My wife stays home, I come home and the place isn't clean. Like, you take care of the child and watch the child and make sure the child's safe and fed and everything else and changed, and then deal with it's not an easy gig. It isn't. I recall staying home with the child, with our first child, for a couple of times. I had such like renewed respect for my wife when she had stayed home. Taking care of the child is exhausting. And especially with whining and crying, whatever, and it's funny because I would see my wife, she'd take a picture and they'd be at the park or they'd go to the beach or whatever. I was like, oh, wow, it seems so easy, until I did it. And, it's funny because we always think that somebody else has it so easy, and it's the same way that there often are wives or husbands, whatever, that'll say like, oh, well, you get to go to work all day. It's easy. It's like, no, that can be stressful too. It's a drain mentally. You have to deal with people. You communicate all day. It's just, I think in relationships and in marriages and with children, it's like, you just have to put yourself in the place of the other person. You'll see things so much differently. And, Reese, do you have a video on the certain things to buy the newborn girl before she gets here? I just mention that may have been before you got on. Don't buy anything. I am not a proponent of buying products prior to. They need clothes, safety, uh, change their diapers, food. That's it. I don't recommend other things, bottle warmers and all kinds of swings and things. I mean, there are things that'll make it easier for you. And if your partner requests something like a pillow that she needs to breastfeed, like, yes, that's fine. But like all these little gadgets and monitors, and I personally, I don't endorse any of that stuff. I'm not saying, people find it more convenient and love it. That's great. But that's not my deal. I think we in general waste a tremendous amount of money on baby related products. Take that money and go invest it. You're probably better off. Now, if you're somewhere, like you're about to change your baby's diaper and you're like, oh, I wish I had this. This would make the situation so much better and easier. Then yes, then go out and get it. But like to buy all these gadgets and things prior to doing it, you don't know if you're going to need it or if it's going to be really helpful for you. Just because it was helpful for somebody else doesn't mean it's going to be helpful for you. I recall so many things that were like in our child's closet. And then we'd look over and be like, oh, we forgot to use that. Or, oh, we didn't get a chance to use that. Or, oh, we have 3 of those. We don't really need that. And we didn't buy a lot. We got so much of it as gifts. And just so much of it's not needed. I think it's a waste. I mean, there's plenty of people that taking care of children without a bunch of these extra things. And so I don't know. That's my deal. Maybe I'm the minority, but Brian asks, would you say a toddler is better off playing with toys until they get bored, or is switching it up often, letting them crawl around, playing with them together, peekaboo games better? I don't know that one's better than the other. I mean, I think, a variety of things is great. I don't know that one's better than the other. There's so many benefits to children playing games, but in the end, your child's going to have their own preferences. Like with I had 2 different, my children were so different. I had one that loved to read books, like just would sit there, read a book, even just flipping through books, even if they couldn't read. The other one wanted nothing to do with a book, just nothing. And eventually what's funny is now they're both interested in reading, but that was not the case early on. And we wanted both children to be interested in reading, but that wasn't the case. And then eventually, they found their way. But so I think, children just have their own little quirks and their own things. And so you present some toys for them and you just decide if, that'll be good, and let them be bored too. That's it. You got to be careful. If they're too bored, they might destruct. You might do some destruction. Melissa asks, this is great. Are you planning on doing another live session? So I have set out to do live sessions every Tuesday until further notice. However, I am looking at the ability to do this on another platform. And so where there's a little bit more ability for me to do some interactions, show some slides, do some other, almost more like a webinar or a class. So I'm exploring that this week. If that's the case, next Tuesday might be on that platform. I'll announce it if it's going to happen. There's just some things to work out. But as it relates to just being on Tuesday evening, that I'd like that to be a day where I do these kinds of things. So hopefully, and I've done some previous ones. You can go back and look at some of those too. Sandeep, good to see you. Glad you're enjoying the content. That's awesome. Let me know where everyone is from, where you're tuning in from. If you got any other questions, I know some of them came through and I apologize if I missed. It's hard to go back through the chat. Let's see. Bapjap. Is it true that babies tend to sleep longer through the night as they get older. Our 8-month-old bedtime is 7 p.m. and he typically sleeps until 7 a.m. That's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I do find that as they get a little bit older, they tend to sleep a little bit longer. When they're younger, the food, they're so hungry and growing so fast, they need that food. And so a lot of them, that's when they get up for feedings every 3 to 4 hours. So yeah, I do find, at least with ours, and we also, 7 o'clock's a good time. I would say even 6:30. I've known some people to 6 o'clock, 6 p.m., and their baby will sleep through the night. So it works. And then it gives you time to just unwind and connect with your partner or do other things. These people that have these babies that stay up until 10 p.m., I don't understand it. I remember going out to dinner or being out and then seeing people with their children, and it's like 10 p.m. and they're little babies and they're out. I just never understood that. It was always amazing. Let's see. So Victoria, I think we had answered this question before. How do you feel about your 5-year-old getting written up, being sat down during recess and taken to the principal's office for drinking others? So there's something going on. You got to talk to your child. The behavior is different than any of the other children. Then you need to have a talk with them. And I think that's something, having consistent talks with your children. Your child might be feeling something or going through something that you want to address, and you want to make sure that they're okay. And, acting out at school is typically, the child is either wanting attention or they're having difficulty expressing themselves, or they have difficulty communicating. I mean, that's why a toddler might bite you, or a toddler screams, or like they're trying to communicate. It's not so much that they're trying to hurt people or that they're trying to, be a jerk. They're trying to communicate. And so I think it's important to have those conversations with your children, even at a very young age. We, as soon as my children could talk, we started having conversations. And so you have conversations about appropriate behavior, and don't always do it in the heat of the moment. I mean, do it elsewhere. Talk about things when they're in the middle of a game playing, and maybe that they'll be more inclined to talk more. So, let's see. John Doe saw a mother say that her baby stays up until 11 p.m. or midnight and they sleep until 1 in the afternoon. That can't be healthy. Well, I mean, if that's their schedule, that's cool. I mean, they're still getting a good amount of sleep. That's not my schedule. I mean, if she has that schedule and the mom can do it, then so be it. I just got to get up in the morning. So that's, that schedule wouldn't work for me. But hey, to each his own. It's like, I can't be critical of someone's schedule. The part that we're just trying to make sure is that the child gets enough sleep. So Victory, I ask all the time and we talk and encourage her. She has trouble expressing herself. Yes. I would imagine that could, be part of it, and the trouble expressing herself. So in that case, you had asked about therapy. Therapy certainly is nothing bad. I think that's great. That might be an option. If anything, it's just because maybe, and don't take this in any negative way, but it's like, we don't often have the tools to teach them teaching the children about emotions. And I mean, unless you have experience in that area, it's very hard to teach a child something that you don't know, or that you don't have information about. So yeah, I mean, maybe behavioral therapy or just a regular therapist or a children's therapist might be able to help her come up with some solutions for, learning about the different emotions, and, or watch some YouTube videos. I would suggest you do that too. Maybe, there's stuff all over YouTube about teaching your children emotions, and, teaching your children to communicate. And there might be some fun cartoon videos or something on YouTube when you type in those that could help her. And if not, then yeah, maybe going to therapy is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Worst thing is that it just doesn't help, but I wouldn't imagine that's the case. I would imagine it would help. LT, do you recommend parents using probiotic drops? I'm not familiar. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nutritionist, so I can't tell you that one. But I mean, I would check with your pediatrician. If there's some reason why they're recommending it, but just, using random things on your own sometimes is a little bit sketchy. I don't love that idea. Not specifically what you're doing, but like just, experimenting with stuff because you kind of saw it on the internet like that. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that. I do trust my wife and she's a nurse. And so with a lot of things, a lot of the medical things and the nutritional things and with the baby, I deferred to her and, or we talked with a pediatrician and, my wife might have thought, okay, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, and then going and talking with the doctor about it. Because every situation's different. There could be some side effects. I don't know. So I wouldn't recommend something that I don't know much about. That's the one thing you'll get from me. I'm not going to recommend something that I don't know. Brian, we've tried to give our 7-month-old bread and soft puffs to eat, but they want nothing to do with it. They'd rather eat the baby purees. Is that still fine? I don't see why it wouldn't. I mean, you're not going to force your child to eat, other foods. I mean, it is good if they're getting a variety of baby purees. I don't see that there's a huge problem with that. I mean, there's adults that just drink juices. So, I think sometimes there's a mental block that we think that like they have to advance quicker than they might be ready to. I think that'll happen in time. I mean, even just your child seeing other children eat stuff sometimes does it, but I don't think you have to force it. If they're happy eating purees and they're healthy and your child's growing, but again, I would talk with the doctor, but I don't see any issue with it. So Reese, would you like to coach a person down the road or train or be a teacher? That's what I do now. I don't do one-on-one coaching. Just don't have the bandwidth time-wise to do that. But I am creating a membership to Dad University, which will have more specific member-only discussions. And so I do group coaching sometimes. That is in the current parenting program where I do coach people that are going through that. I have office hours where they can come in and talk. So in the future, things are going to be a little bit different, and stay tuned for that. But I mentioned that in the beginning. So let's see. Anyone else? Scott? Let me look at some of these. So Reese, you mentioned about making mistakes. Yeah, we as fathers and as parents in general, it is okay to make mistakes. That's something I do talk about is like we make mistakes all the time, and it's best to learn from them. You can't be perfect all the time. I can sit here and talk about all this, and advice and all this stuff, but I made plenty of mistakes. I can only say this now is because I've been through it, and so you do your best to, reduce mistakes or learn from them so that the next time you're faced with that situation, you make a better solution. And I even admit to my mistakes to my children because I want them to do the same. And so there will be situations like, it happens all the time where let's say I get upset with one of my children and I yell, and I realize very quickly that I was mad at something else, had nothing to do with my child, and I let it out on them, and I get upset and I say, hey, listen, we're not going to do that, blah, 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 whatever. I will then apologize and say, I just realized I probably could have handled that situation a lot better. You didn't deserve for me to yell at you. And, I'm sorry for doing that. And guess what? My children, if they yell or get upset, will realize pretty quickly that they just made the mistake and will come back to me and say, hey, Dad, I'm really sorry. I was really frustrated about some things that happened at school today, and I let it out on you, and I'm sorry. Like, where did they learn that? Well, they learned that because I am doing the behavior as well. So, if you yell, if you slam doors, if you, are physical and hit something, they learn that. If you don't want them to act that way, you can't act that way. And, it's not okay for us to act in a certain way and then not expect that our children are going to not do, they're going to do the same thing. They learn from watching us. So you have to be mindful of that. It's something, it's a big deal, to be mindful of watching how you act, how you respond, and what you do, because your children are watching you at all time. They're listening, they're watching, and they know. Graham from Ireland, hello. Good to have you here. Victor, you asked, how do you correct a teen? Well, I'm learning that now, that tries to control you or manipulate situations a lot. Well, that's what teens do. You just know that, we're learning dealing with a teen. I have a 13-year-old and an 11, and everything is boring. They don't want to be involved in anything. They, there's just teen behavior as part of it. And part of that is they're trying to find their own way. You do need to give them a little bit of leeway. They still have to be respectful about it. And, you want to be respectful towards them. But it's like a toddler that goes through that. As a teen is trying to exert their dominance, and they're trying to, exert their independence. Not even dominance is the word, it's independence. And so that can come across in a lot of different ways. And some of that is controlling, some of that is being, yelling back at you. And so it's just being calm and making sure that you are who you are. And you say, you know what, that wasn't okay for you to talk like that. Let's try that again. That's been one since my children were little. We would say, try that again. And so my children know when I say try again, whatever they just said or did or whatever didn't work. And I don't necessarily get pissed off the first time. We allow them to fix it. If a child yells, you say, hey, listen, that wasn't the best way to ask for that. Why don't you try that again? And they'll say, Dad, can I please do, whatever. They get it. John, what would be the best tip for an 8-month-old who doesn't like being in the high chair or even the car seat? Well, there might be reasons why. I would say, that's a common thing. The car seat, here's what I would try. And maybe you have already, I don't know. But allow him to put the car seat on himself, or allow him to get in the chair himself, and ask him and say, hey, I was thinking today, we're going to get in the car. I was wanting to see if you could put the seat, you could put the belts on yourself. Is that something you could do? I don't think you could do it, or something. You can make it a game or something. You have to make the situation a little bit more fun, especially for an 8-month-old, rather than, you probably grab them, put them in the seat. Hey, it's time to eat, or it's time to go. And so you have to make it a little bit more of a game. The other is giving them, if they're not capable of it, is giving them a little bit of the decisions and say, hey, we're going to get into your car seat in a couple of minutes. Would you rather have your, stuffed animal toy or a cup of Cheerios when you get in your car seat? And so the child gets to make a choice. And especially at 8 months old, they can be a little bit combative. You're allowing them and giving them a little bit of power. And that power is them being able to make that choice. So they either get to choose this or that, or even just getting into the car seat. You say, hey, we've got to get into the car seat to go to the store. Do you want to get into it yourself, or do you want me to help you with it? And so, that's one. Sometimes that doesn't work, or so you want to allow them to make some decisions along the way so that they feel like they're in a little bit more control, because they probably feel like they don't get any control. They don't get to do anything. You're picking them up, putting them in the car seat, or putting them in the seat to eat and strapping them in and giving them like, they just don't feel like they're being told what to do. They've got nothing. And they want to feel like they're in control. So that might be a little bit way to do it. I'm wrapping up here, guys. Any quick last questions? Whew, it's been an hour already. We've been going through these pretty fast. Couple things to mention. If you're still here, go to the community tab. Well, first subscribe if you're not subscribed, or hit the thumbs up. That helps. But subscribe so you get notified when I release new videos. But go to the community tab and vote on the membership pricing. Or if you'd say, you know what, doesn't matter what you charge, I'm not paying for it. That's cool too. I want to know that. Those are all, that's an important thing too. So I'm not looking at it, I am doing it, creating membership. And so I want to see what people are interested in, as far as and the level of payment will also kind of determine how much information I'm able to get, how many videos, how many webinars or classes, etc. Just because the more resources there are, the more things that we can do. So just wanted to thank everybody. Lots of gratitude for being here. I enjoy it. As I mentioned, if you were here a little bit earlier, we are going to do this again next Tuesday. I'm not sure if it's going to be here. I will announce it. It'll either be on YouTube or on this new platform that I'll notify people of through the community tab. So you'll want to make sure you're subscribed so that you get notified. And just make sure you're there Tuesday. But we might use another platform that allow us to do some slides and some presentation stuff to kind of make this a little bit more even class, where I could do some teaching and also do Q&A. So hopefully something like that would be interesting. We'll find out. And so everybody have a great week. If you've got any feedback, go to the website, contact me, but also go to that community tab and vote for that. And again, as I say in my videos, I will see you next time. Thanks for coming. We'll talk soon. Take care.